Hello and welcome to another edition of the We Talk Chelsea podcast. Three Sunday League players united through a love of Chelsea Football Club. And just when we thought that the summer was going to be completely quiet and we don't have anything to talk about, no games to talk about, it's all go at Stamford Bridge. It's not necessarily players coming in, but we're looking at players leaving. It's been quite a busy week. I was adding the banners before this evening's show, and let me tell you, it's there's a lot of banners we got to get through. Chaps, how are we doing this week?
Yeah, all good. It's never a dull moment at this football club, is it, at the moment? But yeah, it's. I mean, I suppose it's what we expected, isn't it? With the window opening, we expected us to be busy, especially with offloading players. I suppose it's only when you offload players and see where the land lies that you know what you can bring in and for how much and so on. So it's no surprise, I suppose, that we would want to probably target, let's say, a month from today to know exactly what we're kind of left with the squad, what potentials are going to be coming out the door, and what potential we got coming in. Because obviously we're probably fighting with other clubs for the players coming in as much as anything as well. So I suppose it's as expected, but obviously it just shows the mammoth task that the likes of Potter and Lampard had under their hands last year. That there's so many players that are leaving. The squad was clearly massively bloated, and that just shows again in this window so far.
Yeah. Charlie keeps disappearing into the ethers like this. Just starts slowly backing away. That Homer Simpson meme going into the hedge. It's just disappearing. Yeah. It doesn't even work for me at all. No, we're live on TKS TV, and make sure if you're watching us now, if you've got a YouTube open, just click subscribe, hit a like. It really helps us creep slowly up the Chelsea fans podcast. We've got a very niche podcast, and we very much like to be somewhere near the top. So appreciate your support for watching us this week. So, Tem, I think what we need to do is we need to start from the very beginning. Let's start with Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Premier League. It's looking like the Saudi Pro League. Out of nowhere in January time, Ronaldo gets sent over there. He gets released by Manchester United and goes across to the Saudi League to make, I don't know, God knows, stupid amounts of money. And it's looking likely that, in a time when Chelsea need to get rid of players, the Saudi Arabian League is looking to invest in some players, and we have a very big surplus. How do you feel about necessarily, us trying to get rid of these players, but also, the emergence of the Saudi League?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see another league try and make it to the top. We've seen several failed attempts of investments into big money leagues, as you were, and maybe not work out so well. Obviously, the most recent one is the Chinese league we can attest to. But in terms of them coming to Chelsea, well, we do have a business relationship with Saudi owners. So it kind of makes sense that Clearlake, Todd Bowley and, the Saudi PIF, I think I believe they're called. Yeah, their assets are managed by Clearlake. So it makes sense, they have a business relationship. Some people say, oh, it's a bit dodgy how Chelsea can get backhands, with the Saudi owners, but it's all fair game, to be honest. I mean, it's nothing related to Chelsea. So at the end of the day, why can't they mix both businesses together? If we can offload players that they potentially need and we need to make money, why don't we do the smart thing and work together on this? I mean, there is obviously, again, another reason why they'll probably want to go there. There are quite a few Islamic players we do have under our books, and that's a big attraction to them. The lifestyle, maybe fact they may be able to do things religiously a bit more easier there, because it is an Islamic State country at the same time. So it makes sense for the player side for them to go there, as well as the business side for them, because they earn, a ridiculous wage where they can offset their family or any, especially, it's a very Islamic thing to give a lot to charity, and it's kind of a easy way for them to still earn the same money they are on now, maybe double the money they're on now, and give that away.
Quadruple. We're looking at triple and quadruple for some of the players here in this scenario. And you make a valid point there, Temba, when you were talking about you've seen failed attempts to kind of improve state of leagues across the years. I mean, if we look in the early 2010s, we had, Oscar and Ramirez previously leave Chelsea, move across to China. Marouane Fellaini is still in China now, still playing football over there now. Oscar has only just left Shanghai within the last 6 months or so, I believe. We've seen failed attempts like this previously. We've seen investment in the 70s. I personally didn't see it, but I read about it in United States football. Charlie, do you think? I know it's very much different, moving away from Chelsea per se, but do you think that if history, like, you're doomed? What's the? I'm trying to think of the phrasing now. History, you're doomed to repeat it. What is it? I can't get my words together.
History always repeats itself.
Yeah, history.
So, something along those lines.
Yeah, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're always doomed to repeat it. Something along those lines. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the chat. How do you feel about this? Do you think it should be Saudi's going about it the right way, investing the funds this way, or do you think if they really want to make a shout for to be one of the top 5 teams, top 5 leagues in the world, could it be investment in its academy products?
Yeah, but I just don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough talent in that region. If I'm being honest, I think they just historically there hasn't been that many great Saudi Arabian national teams that I could think of.
They beat Argentina in the World Cup just
gone. No, I understand they're getting better, but they're not of this. For that to be shut, for that to replicate into the league, you need to have some foreign influence as well. That's what happened in the Premier League. The Premier League in the old Division 1 or whatever in the 80s was nowhere near the standard of the Premier League that is now, and so on. And that's purely because of the buying in foreign players, foreign coaches, foreign methods, that sort of thing. I think, to be honest with you, the problem that they're going to have is, look, it is ultimately this PIF thing or whatever it is an investment fund. Ultimately, they do need to get money back off it. They'll be hoping that more people tune in to Saudi Arabian football next season. I don't think that the caliber of players they're buying off Chelsea are going to make that much difference. It's Ronaldo's clearly the big pull, and basically that was a massive coup for them getting him. They're obviously looking at it. Look, Ronaldo's not going to be around for forever. They're probably looking at it and thinking, well, if we can start now buying up loads of sort of Premier League quality players, we can get people to carry on watching it post Ronaldo. But it's a huge risk because, of course, something's got to give. They've got to get that money back from selling it somehow. And it's easy enough selling a Ronaldo shirt around the world, but I don't think people are going to be rushing to the club shop to buy a Koulibaly shirt, for example. Do you not think?
I would. I would 100%. Absolutely. Why not? I've got this thing about, like, I want to buy shirts where teams, when players leave Chelsea and then they go to different clubs, I reckon. So, like, I think I tried to get a Drogba shirt when he joined Montreal Impact. I really, really wanted one, but I could never find it. I had to go get one off.
Yeah, but Koulibaly, he's not going to. If he leaves this summer, he'll be quickly forgotten at Chelsea as just a one season, not even a one season player.
He joins the legends such as Philippe Luis, Asier Del Horno, Maniche, one season wonders. I think he'd just quickly be forgotten about in the grand scheme of things as a Chelsea player. I think the best thing that we do in this scenario is we can wax lyrical about the Saudi League and its pitfalls and the things that it's going to be exciting. But I guess we'll focus on the positives in this scenario. Is that Chelsea have an overwhelming surplus of players. We have a squad of 31 players. We need to trim that down before Pochettino officially starts on the 1st of July. And it's looking likely that quite a few players are rumoured to be going to the Saudi League. I think the best one, probably the biggest players, well, we touched upon it here. So Koulibaly, rumoured to be joining Al Hilal. The offer's there. He's on astronomical wages, Timber. He's on 275,000 a week. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, do you think this is a smart decision to get Koulibaly off the books? Could it be an advantage for players coming in like Levi Colwill? We're trying to get him. We've rejected a bid from Brighton. We're trying to tie him down for a contract extension. So could this be beneficial?
Yeah, I mean, in the sense of, if he doesn't want to be here, which is something I think we discussed privately, which I kind of want to bring up, is how many players actually want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
It seems like everyone's quite happy just to leave or seek a new adventure. And, he's only been here for 12 months. Things may not have worked out in the last 12 months. But at the same time, if he is someone of pride and someone who wants to work hard at something, why doesn't he want to stay? And it's the same thing I have the question with everyone else, because it looks like everyone wants to leave. So in a sense, on Chelsea's side, yes, you get a 31-year-old off your books for 300k a week. But on the flip side, you look at it, you think, why does he want to leave, and why does everyone else seem so happy just to jump ship at the moment? It is a little bit worrying, but at the same time, I don't think Koulibaly is a player we should necessarily keep. So at the same time, I'll be happy to see him go, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, should we be concerned that the rumours flying out of the camp at the moment that people are very, very happy to jump ship? We look at like the Mason Mount situation, Kovacic, rumour potentially be signing with Manchester City imminently. Terms agreed. We'll touch upon another player a little bit later on, because I think I got a little bit peeved off during the week, just regards to that certain player looking to jump ship. Is it a cause for concern, or do you see the positive of it and say, you know what, these players are leaving, what the players are staying, the players that are staying are players that actually want to play for Chelsea, that want to play from a team that didn't perform well last season?
Yeah, I think it just depends which players leave. I mean, there's probably the one that I'm most concerned about is Mount. Basically, that's the one that I'm most concerned about. But out of all the rest of the ones that at the moment that are being banded around, I think we've got enough strength and depth in those positions. Or there are players rumored to be we're heavily linked to, like Caicedo, who can cover the likes of Kovacic, for example. And look, Kovacic is one that didn't want to be there. That's fairly obvious. There's other ones like Chalobah. That's probably a bit sad in some respects. If you've got like sort of you like seeing these players coming through. But ultimately, if we get a decent enough offer for him, we've got the cover in those positions, and players that are frankly better than him in those positions and just as young. So I don't know. It's just Mount. Mount is probably the only one that I'll sorely miss, and the rest of them I'm not really. I'm very glad, to be honest, to see the back of Ziyech. I'm glad to see the back of Koulibaly, really, for what we expected of him last season. If we could get rid of Lukaku, that would be the ultimate, wouldn't it? It would be brilliant, but probably we won't. Probably go out on loan again. So I don't know. I suppose that overall, we'll have to see what we're left with. But there's not really any worrying ones. There's not players like it's not like a mass exodus, and we've still got a lot of players left.
Yeah.
When you think about it,
I get it. I think especially in January, a lot of the players that were signed were players signed to kind of replace the Pulisic's, the Ziyech's. I mean, admittedly, we do have a midfield issue with, Kovacic, Mount, Ruben Loftus-Cheek looking to leave as well. Ethereal here says Pochettino is one that definitely will trim that team down. Yeah, he likes to. I think this is something that you were quite passionate about during the season, Charlie, is like people don't know their strongest squad. I think Pochettino is one of those managers that does know his strongest squad. He'll make it apparent that this is the team he wants to play. Each and every week. We don't, we were looking at squad sheets each and every week towards the back end of the season. It was changing all the time. It was like 5 in, 5 out. You know what I mean? It's just, Pochettino is hopefully going to bring that little bit of stability to Chelsea. One thing you mentioned on here, just let's have a look, bring up this here. So you mentioned Hakim Ziyech, a player rumoured potentially to be joining Al Nassr, joining up with Ronaldo as well. Is this... Do you feel like Ziyech kind of never really got going at Chelsea? Do you think there was moments where you saw brilliance from him, Timber, and that all of a sudden, he got knocked back, whether it be hamstring injuries, calf injuries, just 2 or 3 week layoffs, just as his momentum was going, and then it just puts that roadblock in, and then he's working back towards it, and then, other people fill that gap. Do you think we never really saw the best of Hakim Ziyech?
Yeah, well, at the same time, I think he is a player that often frustrates. He is a player that will try the stupid or outlandish thing, and sometimes it comes off, sometimes it doesn't. So, in that sense, he's a high volume player where he'll need maybe 5 shots and 5 crosses, and maybe only one of them's really dangerous. But at the end of the day, that one that's really dangerous, it's almost going to be either an assist or a goal. And yeah, for Chelsea, I don't think we've quite seen that enough. Like you say, sometimes he's got into form and then got injured, or maybe, I don't know, someone else has come in next game, and he hasn't really got that consistency of playing. So when he does actually play, he tries something a bit too outlandish, where he should probably just keep it simple and work his way back into form. So in that sense, at his age right now, I think it's the perfect time for him to go. I think he has reached a ceiling where, it just won't get any better for him at this football club. He hasn't really been playing, and he deserves to play, to be honest. So, the best thing for him and Chelsea is for both to part ways.
I think Charlie, you were one of his biggest critics, and I think on this day, Hakim Ziyech, is a very, very good footballer. I think a key memory for me is that goal against Tottenham. I think I'll always remember that goal against Tottenham when he cut it in from the outside of the box and into the top corner. I think you mentioned here, but do you see Ziyech's time at Chelsea as kind of just a waste completely, or is it something just we saw positive moments?
I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you the reasons why it went wrong. It might be just the league was too physical for him. I don't know, but he just never seemed happy at the club. That was what kind of annoyed me. He never seemed part of the team. He rarely kind of celebrated with the team and things like that. It's just little things that I used to notice. And I remember when he first came in, I think Lampard bought him, didn't he?
It was a Lampard signing.
Around the same time as Werner and those sort of players. He was brilliant when he first come on the scene. He was literally, like, for the first 2 or 3 matches, I remember reading articles in the paper. We thought he was going to be really probably our best signing of that summer. At one point, I think he played a game against Newcastle or someone. He was absolutely brilliant. Home match, I think, or it might have been a away match. But I mean, it's just disappointing the way that from that, where we knew he had the talent and he had this amazing left foot and he had so much going for him that it just fizzled out so quickly. But it's funny because he's so well thought of in sort of the Middle East and North Africa. He's so well thought of, and that's why moving to Saudi for him, it's such a no-brainer because he'll be absolutely adored over there. Just because of his reputation as a player, he's so well thought of in those regions. In fact, they get, if you can see on other channels, they always, people from that region are always questioning why he doesn't play. And but from what I've seen of him, I could never justify, if I was the manager, I could never justify starting him really. What else we've got around as well, but
I think all three of us can kind of see it as kind of something where it just didn't quite work out. I swear I speak for all of us when we say we wish him the best, and if he does leave the club. Ithira said Pochettino will have his ways, just like how Pep got rid of Cancelo, and it was questioned to then go on and win the treble. He's a very good manager when it comes to man management. I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding. I think in this scenario coming up to when he joins, it'd be interesting to see his. I don't want to get too excited earlier on because it's going to be so different going in, because last season was a shit show, wasn't it? It was an utter shit show. So I'm looking forward to the start of the season already, and looking forward to seeing how they line up in that scenario. Let's move across through to here. So I just want to touch upon something here. So let's talk about another player that is rumoured to be leaving. We can briefly touch upon Edouard Mendy has agreed terms with Ali, another player that's going in here. Tem, do you think this could be an opportunity for Chelsea to? What do you think is going to happen? Most likely to happen? Slanina brought to the field as a reserve keeper, or do we think Kepa's going to move to number 2 and we're going to look to bring in a first choice goalkeeper?
Yeah, this is the report I saw earlier. Apparently, Kepa is going to remain as number 1, and we're going to look for a number 2 to push him. So, with that news, I was very disappointed, to be honest, because apparently Pochettino wants him to get a new goalkeeping coach, or maybe the same goalkeeping coach, to improve him as a consistent number 1. However, I just don't see how it gets any better with Kepa. I saw some fans were very optimistic, thinking, Kepa was very good in the first season he came. But even in the first season he came, I don't know if you guys remember the Carabao Cup final. Well,
when he got Chopsy to Sarri, he refused to come off.
Yeah, no. Actually, the penalty shootout, the saves you know how he tried to act arrogant to Aguero, and then guessed the right way for the penalty, and it just fumbled right through his hands.
Yeah, I think that's also like I think I remember the Van Dijk one as well. You know, when he stood across from the goal, like it's really close to the left post, and then Van Dijk still went the same way, and it still beat him. It was
Things like that. I can understand how he wants to impose himself as a keeper, and from reports and actually being at the games, you can hear him. He's very loud as a keeper. He likes to talk to his defense a lot, and he seems like a good communicator. But however, that all doesn't matter if you're not very good at actually goalkeeping itself. And unfortunately for him, his size does often be the reason why he gets beaten. Everyone is confident to shoot against him, which you don't want in a keeper. You want sort of
Hugo
striker.
Lloris, Thibaut Courtois, that kind of 6'5", imposing frame, that kind of keeper.
Well, I wouldn't put Lloris in the same category as Courtois, but each to their own.
I'd say Lloris 6-7 years ago, let's say.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, I see what you mean, but yeah. Or De Gea, someone like that, where you think you're taking a shot, it's got to be inch perfect to beat them, not a sloppy shot is going to maybe fumble underneath his arm and go in. And it's the same problem we have at the moment with Mendy, because I couldn't defend him either. He's been awful for the last year or so. I just don't see how Kepa can get back his form. I hope he does, for the sake of himself and us, because I think he's still contracted for 2 more years. But I'm just really disappointed with that news, because I think we should be aiming for a new number 1. I think it'll do himself good, maybe, to get out of this environment and establish himself as a top keeper elsewhere. I just don't think he's the type of keeper that will take you to a league title or any sort of trophy and any sort of silverware. And in fact, if you've seen I think, apart from the Europa League, every final we've actually lost when he's played.
Yeah. Do you not think if he was promoted as a number 1 and then have a number 2 come in to push him to make him better, do you not feel that number 2 would just usurp him anyway?
Yeah, well, that's the point. So why don't you just chase a number 1 anyway? Why are you chasing someone to be an understudy to him?
Yeah.
And surely Mendy pushed him somewhat, didn't he? I mean, you can't. I mean, I know he wasn't that bad to say that he was like literally sitting there doing nothing. He was good enough to play in cup games and stuff last season, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he played in the odd league game here and there when Kepa was injured. So I don't know. Like I can't see how you're gonna. What kind of keeper? What kind of a sort of unambitious keeper are you going to find that's lying around who will get, for that sort of money, will be happy to be a number 2 for at least a year? You've got to bear in mind that if all goes well, if the plan goes well, then Kepa might get an extension on that contract, and then that keeper's just come over for nothing. So who can you get? I mean, it's difficult. I personally I don't think he's good enough, but I suppose the problem that they have is actually finding someone. He's on such a high salary, that guy, and we bought him for such a large amount of money that I suppose it's like, how do you, if you had to toss up between Mendy and him, Mendy was always going to have to be the one that went, because it was going to be so hard to find someone to buy Kepa and for Kepa to go. So ultimately, I think all this, I think it's a bit of a smokescreen as well. I think all this stuff about we'll get a number 2. I think that the hand's been forced a little bit there as well. I think it's kind of Kepa's just not going to go. His agent's probably saying, look, tell you what, you find a club, and he's not going to go to Saudi Arabia. So it's just like
it's not a glamorous position, is it?
It's going to have to be Europe. And look, I think Kepa, all this stuff about it actually annoyed me that I saw that report and they were like, oh yeah, Kepa. Poch sees something that he can improve Kepa. We've been waiting for this improvement for a long time. He's been at the club a long time, that guy. He's probably second or third longest serving player now at the club.
Yeah.
Like in first
team.
He
will be first. I think he'll be first.
It'd be
Azpilicueta,
yeah. But after him, it would be Kepa, wouldn't it? Like obviously there's a few others if they leave, but he will be up there. And you just think that guy's never really improved at all. Like from what I can see, he's had an okay season last season, surprisingly okay, to be honest. And before that, he hadn't really done a lot. Like he's never really done much for us.
I think one thing I wanted to touch upon is obviously, Eduard Mendy agreed terms of Al Ali. When Mendy was brought into the Chelsea team midway through the season under Frank Lampard in his first tenure, Kepa was going through such a bad patch of form that when Mendy came in, I just want to evaluate Mendy's time at Chelsea, because Charlie, you've said previously, when players come into Chelsea, we make them worse, and that's the statement you do stick by. And is Mendy one of those players, or is Mendy basically just? Is it somewhat of a smokescreen because when he took over from Kepa, the improvement that we experienced there was so vast? Was there a moment when was he good and then he got progressively worse, or is he just stayed particularly average and we just had nothing really to compare it against?
No, I think Mendy was really, I know. I thought he was really good in the in his first half season and the second season as well. Thought he was pretty good. I mean, and then I think as soon as that Carling Cup final, I think that was the after that it just all went downhill. That was as good as it got for him, and then after that it all went downhill. Do you think, in that Carling Cup final he got subbed off for Kepa, didn't he, in the shootout?
Just for the benefit of people watching that don't remember, if you can just elaborate on which Carling Cup final that is.
Sorry, it's not called the Carling Cup final anymore, is it? The Carabao Cup final.
League Cup, we can say League Cup, but just for the benefit of people listening, who is it against? Just helps to provide some context.
So it's the 0-0 against Liverpool that went all the way to penalties, which was the really long penalty shootout, wasn't it? And then Kepa ended up missing the. So basically, what happened, to put people up to speed, is Mendy played probably his best game for Chelsea and essentially kept us in the match, making a number of good saves. And then the plan was before the match is that Kepa was better at penalty shootout stopping. So they had an agreement to take Mendy off and bring Kepa on. This was obviously made pre-match, so it happened, and Kepa ultimately cost us the shootout. And I just got a funny feeling that since then, it was that moment that it kind of all went downhill for him. I can't remember him playing that well after that. And I've just got a funny feeling that maybe that it rubbed him up the wrong way a little bit. He was kind of like, well, hang on, what? I've literally, this is my final, because if he would have won the shootout for us, he would have been man of the match. There's no doubt about that. I think I can't remember who was man of the match. It would have been a Liverpool player, I'm guessing.
Probably.
Because I can't remember who it was, but it would have probably been Liverpool. But it was Mendy was definitely the Chelsea's best player in that match, without a doubt. Yeah, although we missed a lot of chances as well, I think.
We did
missed a lot of chances,
and there was a few offside. was there a few offside goals, if I remember correctly?
Mount, I think.
Mount hit the post, I think maybe twice.
I think Havertz
scored offside goal.
Yeah,
I don't remember the game very well for obvious some reasons I won't disclose, but and then I remember the shootout. I remember the shootout, and
I would have been raging. I'd have been raging, especially with the penalty so badly taken.
Yeah, I was ready to walk out as soon as I saw Kepa stepping up. To be honest,
we knew it was going to be. Yeah, it was just it had to be. It was, and that just sums it up really. That he cost us. It does make me laugh about Kepa because they always bring him in for these shootouts. They did the same in the Club World Cup, didn't they? And he did win it. He did win it as the trophy and the Super Cup maybe.
Yeah, but I don't even particularly.
The Super Cup did we win? I can't remember if we won in normal time.
No, Super Cup we did win on pens, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I don't even think of like when you think Kepa, I don't think, hey, he's a fantastic penalty saver. Do you know what I mean?
He's quite good.
But I don't think I don't immediately go to that. I don't think he's synonymous with it. Like if you said, "Hey Tom, who's the best penalty saver in the world?" I'd probably say like Martinez. Do you know what I mean? I think he doesn't. I don't associate the two together. I think it's very bizarre. But we could talk about loads of finals that we've lost very, very recently. But let's not get depressed. Let's move. You mentioned something very, very key in that scenario. We're going to move across through to a little player that called Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz has allegedly agreed terms with Arsenal, not just allegedly agreed terms, but is actively seeking to leave Chelsea. I mean, I think there's no smoke without fire. He was rumoured to Real Madrid at this point last week, and all systems go, but Real Madrid wouldn't increase their offer above 50 million, I believe. Chelsea looking to recoup the fee that we paid for him 3 years ago, 62.5 million euros. We're holding out for 70 from Arsenal, and it's looking likely that Arsenal are looking to try and bring him in, as well as Declan Rice from West Ham. I mean, speaking about players that don't want to be here, I'll go with you, Charlie. Do you think, how do you feel about the Kai Havertz situation? Because for me personally, I think it's a bit snaky. I really do. I think he signed that 5-year deal. He's basically he's played every game, albeit, we'll give credit, not in his favoured position. He doesn't want to be playing as a striker. He wants to be playing as a number 10. But under Pochettino, it's looking more likely that if you are going to play a player as a number 9, it's more likely to be Nkunku that's going to come in and do that, which will allow Havertz to play behind in a role that he wants to. Do you feel that this is just a bit, I don't want to say Judasy, because signing for Arsenal from Chelsea isn't Judasy. It's just a bit, it's just snaky. It comes across as very, very. It comes across as a bit, to Chelsea, I'm going to go sign for your biggest London rival.
Yeah, I actually don't know what to think about it, because I don't think Havertz is. I love Havertz, but I don't think he's like some world-class player that everyone seems to make out. And I don't think we've ever got the best out of him. And I don't think Arsenal will necessarily get the best out of him either. So I'm not really that bothered, if I'm being honest. If we can get, like, I actually look at it more of it as a business transaction. If Arsenal is stupid enough to pay 60 million, 70 million for Havertz, look, Havertz is going to go where Havertz probably just wants to stay in London or something, and I don't think it's an FU at Chelsea. I think it's probably more that they've come in for him, and he's probably been told by Chelsea. He would have been one of the players probably that's been told by Chelsea, if we get enough money for you, you're on the chopping board, mate. And that's one of the clubs that are in for him, or probably the only club that are in for him. I don't know. I just with Havertz, as much as I do like him, and he can turn it on. It's so rare that you see it, and he only seems to be in big matches. This is what I don't. He's such a big game player, Havertz, but that's about all he does. He never turns up for any other game except the big games. Liverpool away every year. That guy always turns up for Liverpool. I don't know why. He's got this thing against Liverpool. He always turns up. And he always turns up, in some of the big European matches as well.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem to be able to turn up for, Newcastle's a bad example nowadays. I don't know, Sheffield United
Forest.
at home.
Yeah.
Forest at home, for example. He just doesn't turn up,
I mean, Temba, is that something that you would agree with, like when it comes to Kai Havertz? I mean, a lot of Chelsea fans were, he's written into folklore. He won Chelsea the second Champions League in our history with the through ball from Mount. He scored the goal. It's given him a lot of stock. But is it is it enough stock for us to warrant to say, do you know what? You've had your time, and if you're going to go to Arsenal, we have to respect that decision. Has he got that clout to say, do you know what, you served your time here? Because I don't think so. I think it's just, again, I'll say it again, I think it's just downright snaky, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually want to hear more of your thoughts on it. What do you think of Havertz leaving?
For the benefit of people watching that haven't seen the previous podcast, we weren't live on TKS TV at the time, but Havertz, I got incredibly frustrated with Havertz throughout the back end of the season, just because he seems to, like Charlie said, switch it on when he wants. For the big games, and there's more eyes on it, we're seeing more from Havertz and his capabilities. Him against Dortmund in the home leg of the Champions League, he played very well that game. But I also didn't factor in, and I think I let the emotions get the better of me. I think, he's played out of position. He's not a natural number 9. He doesn't want to play number 9. So I was thinking, okay, give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think even a few weeks ago, I said it'd be interesting to see once we get that number 9 in and have a number 10. But what I don't think it's Chelsea saying, hey, Kai, if we get a really good offer for you, you're on the block. I think Kai Havertz has gone to Chelsea and said, I don't want to be here anymore. If I get a good enough deal, I want to go out, because there's no smoke without fire. He's had Real Madrid come in for him. He's agreed terms, allegedly, with Real Madrid as well before a fee can be agreed. He's agreed terms with Arsenal, allegedly, before a fee can be agreed. And what happens if this Arsenal deal falls through? Is somebody else suddenly going to swoop in for him? Is Bayern Munich going to come through and then make an offer for it? I mean, I think me personally, if Bayern Munich were to make an offer for him, I'd be more than happy to say, do you know what? Yeah, Bayern Munich, I can kind of understand. Returning to your home country, I kind of get that. Real Madrid, again, I can get that. It's Real Madrid. We're not anywhere near Real Madrid's level. It will take a long time for Chelsea to get anywhere near Real Madrid's level, the prestige that they have. I just think him signing for a rival, knowingly him leaving for a rival and strengthening that team, and I don't think he walks into that Arsenal team because Odegaard is better than Havertz. Yeah, I said it. I think it's just snaky. He'd rather move across through there to sit on Arsenal's bench than play for Chelsea every week. There, I said it. That's me just, ranting and just trying to keep it eloquent. I mean, feel free for people watching in the comments here to just put some. How do you feel about Kai Havertz in that scenario? I mean, I know a lot of the people that watch us aren't particularly Chelsea fans, but we haven't seen the best from Kai Havertz. Tem, I don't know. Is that something you agree with, or is it something that you feel like Charlie's probably, Charlie's the voice of reason in this scenario?
No, I think I kind of in the middle of both of your thoughts. I think at the same time, Chelsea haven't exactly used him to his best of his abilities. I think we haven't got the best out of him. I don't think he's ever been a number 9. I don't see what managers thought of putting him as a sole number 9. At the same time, I don't think Kai Havertz, the player, has performed to the top of his supposed abilities that we saw at Leverkusen. I just don't think he's acclimatized to this league very well. You see a lot with players who like to play in this number 10 position or, in around the spaces. His touch is often either really good or either really, really bad. And I don't think he has like spatial awareness of knowing when a lot of the time you'll see Havertz, he's just like sort of strolling on the ball very casually. And then next second, someone will just clap him straight away and get the ball off him. And he'll often be left surprised, as in, like, where did that player come from? And I think if you are someone who operates in half a space, that's the one thing you definitely got to be good at. You see players like David Silva, who played in this league, Bernardo Silva himself, who even plays on the wing, number 10, Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, can go on for ages, Odegaard, any sort of previous 2010 Arsenal player, or Juan Mata, anyone like that with, maybe not the greatest body strength or physical condition. You've got to be aware of when these players defenders are coming towards you, or just how to give yourself a bit of time before you actually make a decision. And I think that's something he definitely has lacked in terms of adjusting to this league. Do you remember his debut against Brighton when he played the number 8? Yeah,
I don't remember what I had of the on Saturday, like, to be honest, but I think I remember him starting as a centre midfielder as part of the 3. Is it 4-3-3?
Yeah, that's correct. Under Lampard, where Kante was the DM, I think Mason Mount was the left centre mid, and Havertz was right centre mid.
Yeah.
And even then, when he had so much time, a lot of the things he was doing was wrong. That may have been a lot of nerves. But during that Champions League run, I will say, though, he did actually play quite well.
Yeah, but he was, when he first came into Chelsea, he was terrible at the beginning. I remember he was really, his first season, most of it, I could not work him out at all. And it was only because of the Champions League, because that was his first season, wasn't it? The Champions League win.
Yeah, it was.
So it's only because of that he got the. I mean, I think just before that he was starting, obviously, to perform a little bit, because he wouldn't have got in that final and been in that position. But he was. I remember when he first came in, I was like, this guy, I don't know what he does. Like, I just don't know why he's so. Why have we paid all this money? He's like, he might have even been our record signing at the time. I think I'm pretty sure he was.
He's 62.5. Kepa was 71 at that point, so it's previously there. So I think he was up there. It was like number 2, number 3, something like that. But still, an astronomical amount of money.
Yeah. And can I just add on that point as well? No. It's another thing I think I worry about someone like him or Mason Mount is they played a lot of football but haven't established a position, and
Yeah.
it's high time that age where maybe the managers have sort of just fit them in because they are talented footballers. They're very talented footballers. They can fit into multiple positions, and it's a plus and a minus of the fact that they're so good at several things that they haven't mastered something. And it's a shame because under the managers they've played in, they've always, it's been notoriously a 3-4-3, which I don't think either of them fit in a formation like that. You've seen Havertz, his best games have always been with Timo Werner running off him, where he creates space for him. And, Mason Mount, I think his best games were under actually Frank Lampard when just before Lampard was sacked, where he actually played him in midfield. And, often the time with even in their national teams, Havertz does play as a striker, but he actually does play quite well, which surprises me.
Yeah, for Germany. Scores a lot of goals. But then it's to do with who he's got around. Again, Werner, isn't it?
Yeah.
He probably needs a Werner.
Maybe the mistake was selling Timo Werner. I'll stick by that. I love Timo Werner. Yeah, he missed more opportunities to say, but he used to create a lot of space for the players around him.
And with Mason Mount, often for England he's playing on the left wing, which again I don't agree with. But this is another thing of people not rating Mason Mount, but he can't have had like 4 or 5 managers now, and everyone sees something in him. He's even his peers have said he's like one of the best trainers. Well, he's got one of the best technical abilities in actually the whole England squad. So it's not just a thing of Mason Mount is a terrible footballer. He may not produce results on the pitch, but clearly he's doing something right on the training ground or whatever. And he's got some form of ability somewhere. But again, I just harper back to the point of I think it's high time for him to really establish himself in a position as a player. So in that sense, I feel disappointed in him that he wants to go to a rival. I'd rather have seen him go to Bayern Munich, but at the same time, like many people have said, there's no loyalty in football anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just incredibly disappointing, and it makes me just question why so many players want to leave, because we are building a project here. So why wouldn't you want to be part of it?
Yeah, I think I have to agree. But you also have to consider as well, there are players that can kind of fill that role. I agree with what you said about pluses and negatives. The fact that there are players that can play in multiple positions. I think that's part of the reason why Ruben Loftus-Cheek, along with his, Achilles injury, that he never hit the heights, is because he's always been that versatile utility player. And I think Mount, has played in multiple positions. Havertz played in multiple positions. I have to say, both those, they're kind of like a jack of all trades, but they haven't actually mastered a specific position. Like if you think of any player, like if I was to tell you, hey, David Silva, he's a number 10, that's where he plays. If I was to say to you, Bernardo Silva, he's a winger, that's where he plays. When you think of these players, they have a set position. Could they fill in other areas? Yeah, absolutely. Charlie, if Havertz was to leave, I know I don't want to talk too much about Arsenal because this is the We Talk Chelsea podcast, but would he even walk into Arsenal's team?
No, and that's the other thing is, this isn't like I think you'd have to ask an Arsenal fan this, but do you think Arsenal fans are getting giddy about this, about Havertz coming in? I don't think they are. Not from what I've seen. I don't think they're really excited about it or anything like that. I think, and that just shows you, how much, how that just really shows you, doesn't it? Sort of that it's not. He's probably not the greatest. He's not going to walk into their team, and from what they've seen, they probably can't quite see where he fits in. I think from their perspective, it's more a case of they are quite one-dimensional in the way that they play, and they don't have a lot of height up top. And I suppose that's all it is that they can lump the ball to him or something. Maybe if they're desperate for a goal with 10 minutes to go. I don't know. Does he really want to sign for that? Are they going to spend 60 million for that?
Well, clearly he wants to. He'd rather go sign and play, sit on the bench for Arsenal than play for Chelsea every week. So I guess so.
That's the only thing I can think. But maybe it's the fact he can play. I say can play, but he's willing to play in multiple positions at least, and maybe that's something else. It's just depth in that sense, like a utility kind of player, I suppose.
I mean, if we're talking about players leaving, I think the key thing, there's a midfield problem we have. Kovacic, Mount, Havertz, all those players that play in that sort of position. But one thing's to said, Todd Bowley, we can talk about his. We've waxed lyrical about his kind of transfer dealings, and Varner here makes a great cut. What are your guys' thoughts on the young midfielders? We've invested a lot of money in Andre Santos, Cesare Casadei, I hope I pronounced that right, and Carney Chukwuemeka. We've invested in these players that play in central midfielder positions. So, is this going to be the opportunity for players like Andre Santos, who's rumored they've relaxed the rules on visas, so I think he can now sign it, and he's expected to be a part of the tour here. Do you think the USA tour? Do you think this is an opportunity, like an actual proper opportunity for these young players like Santos, like Cesare Casadei, who won the under-20 World Cup Player of the tournament? He got the Golden Boot as well from a central midfield position. Is this the opportunity for them? Do you think, Charlie? Do you think this would be the way that Pochettino might wants to move forward? I'm going to stand up.
Yeah, possibly. I suppose it depends what our goals are for next season, isn't it? Are they? I don't think anyone's going to kid themselves and think that we're going to push for the title next season. But clearly those guys are just a little bit lightweight for anything like that. So I suppose it just depends what they're looking to do, and obviously who we bring in, who stays. But yeah, I mean, from what I've seen of certainly Chukwuemeka, he looks up to it. Certainly as a squad player at least, and the other two I haven't seen enough of, so I couldn't comment. But yeah, I'll leave it to Tem. Tem's probably a little bit more knowledgeable about the individuals themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Temba, I think you and I both kind of keep an eye on like the younger players, as it were. Cesare Casadei had a fantastic under-20 World Cup. Andre Santos had a fantastic. Was it an under-21 Brazil South Copa? I can't even remember. There was a tournament that he took part in earlier on this year. He was absolutely fantastic.
As well. Yeah.
Was he there as well? But I'm fairly certain there was another tournament before, and then he's also made his senior Brazilian debut also, and he's not even made a first-team appearance for Chelsea, Andre Santos.
I don't know.
I think he had a call up. I'm not sure if he made the appearance, but yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna have to go to Wikipedia for that. But yeah, please talk about. So, do you feel like the younger players is an opportunity for the Chukwuemekas to kind of get more? He had 16 appearances last season, but do you think this is an opportunity for some of these younger players? And lest we forget, we are still rumoured to bring in Moises Caicedo as well from Brighton.
Yeah, this is the burning question I have because, well, in my opinion, I think it's probably best for at least two of them to go out on loan. I think maybe Andre Santos, it would be good for him to be in around the first team. I think Chukwuemeka and Casadei should just carry on their exploration of themselves as players and get some minutes. They've played already in the league. They've played in England. So maybe carry on their progression now. Chukwuemeka, I think, should have got a lot more game time than he did this season.
Yeah.
So I'd like to actually see him loaned out for a whole season where he gets regular minutes every single week, because he won't start at Chelsea. I think Santos, it might do him well to be in and around the squad.
Yeah. To help, would you say just to help him acclimatise to like a new continent? You think it'd be beneficial to have that kind of thing?
A steady manager where he knows who he's going to be playing with maybe for the next 3 or 4 years. He has a few Portuguese speaking people in the squad maybe, and just help him settle down really in London. So he gets comfortable in around the actual squad. So yeah, he's contributed to a lot of goals for his Brazil team. So yeah, just to get him really fitted in. And in terms of Casadei, he's had a brilliant under-20 World Cup. He was on loan at Reading. So I think the next test for him right now is probably the Premier League as well. So I think another loan out for him and Chukwuemeka would be very good. But then again,
it just leaves us light in that central midfield position. I mean, I think Varner mentioned here. We've got Gabri coming in from potentially from Celta Vigo with a low release cost of 45 million. That's an option there. He's another number 10.
Gabri Veiga.
Gabri Veiga, yeah. I don't watch La Liga, so I can't possibly comment. I think anything that I do say would be based on pretty much anything I've read, but I don't know anything about that player at all.
So he is like a goal scoring type of midfielder. He often
Like
likes
Kai
to
Havertz.
well, no.
Mason Mount.
Mason Mount, yeah. He likes the odd shot from distance. Probably better than Mount, to be fair, but he likes the odd shot from distance. Getting in and around the box. And I haven't seen a lot of him, but from the comps I've seen, he's not the type of player who's shy to take a shot. And I think it's something we definitely need in our team, especially from a midfield point of view. I saw someone mention the other day, why do we need one of our defensive midfielders to shoot? I think, you've seen it many times at Stamford Bridge where we're playing in around the box. It falls to Kovacic or
Michael Essien
at the time, or whoever it was at the time. Yeah, even Michael Essien. Well, I'll leave Michael Essien out of that convo, but Jorginho, Kovacic, or Kante, and you just think shoot, or you hear the cry of shoot, and it ends up either rosette or taking a deflection or something, going out for a corner. So it would be added threat. Other teams have it with maybe the likes of Xhaka, Thomas Partey, Rodri, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, even Fabinho, Henderson. You just have endless shooters at other clubs where we don't offer anything from midfield. I think our midfielders average about maybe 4 goals a season minus the Jorginho penalties.
And that's why it was so easy. That's why last season we were so easy to play against, because teams knew, we've had this discussion before, but teams knew that as long as you could keep yourselves behind the ball, essentially, you were fine. You didn't have to worry because they weren't going to shoot, or if they did shoot, it wasn't going to go anywhere. It's not like days gone by, Frank Lampard be shooting from 30 yards out or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore.
The only player that I can think of that, from a Chelsea perspective, in that midfield position that would try and take a shot on is Conor Gallagher, but it's few and far between when he does take those chances on. I'm conscious of time. Even Enzo, Enzo's another one that we would like. I'd quite like him to take a few more shots. Not scored yet for Chelsea. Conscious of time, we try and keep this as close to an hour as we possibly can. But if we go over, we go over. There's lots to talk about. So let's talk about another player that might potentially be joining Chelsea. Rumored that Nicolas Jackson is going to be signing from Chelsea from Villarreal. I don't know too much about this player, but Charlie, you told me an interesting fact about Nicolas Jackson just before we went live on this podcast. If you want to share that with people.
Well, I'll be honest to the audience. I'd never really heard of him until a week or so ago. So I just looked on Wikipedia. I didn't know this, but apparently he nearly signed for Bournemouth in January for 22.5 million. We've just signed him we're going to sign him for how much? 35 million, is it?
35 million euros, I believe is
£5 So 5 months later, we've signed this player who's, for an extra 50% at least on what Bournemouth was selling for. The other thing as well to note about this guy is last season he had his scoring record was 13 goals in 38, which isn't anything amazing, but it's okay if he's going to be a second striker. But before that, he was he didn't score any goals prior to that in La Liga. The season before, he had 7 goals in 37 the season before, and then 1 goal in 17. So his return is really not that great. I mean, his career total is 21 goals in 92 games.
I think we have to factor in the fact that he is. I think he's 21 years old. I think Temba, you shared a statistic about him as well. I don't think he's hit the ball rolling. He's not a Wayne Rooney. He's not a Neymar that's going to be banging in goals from the age of 16. I think he's slowly getting better and better. He's not reached his peak level just yet. But Temba, you shared a stat in terms of chances and conversions.
Yeah, so his conversion rate is actually pretty good. His shots on target again is pretty good, and his link-up play is also very good from the metrics I've seen. But his one weakness is in the air, and that does concern me a little bit because we do like the odd. I hope Poch gets us playing a different way because that will be an issue. We often do like to cross the ball in the air, and I don't understand why when we have no tall players whatsoever in our team.
No, we really don't.
You often see Sterling going up for a header. I'm thinking he's not going to win
Yeah.
it.
Any corner or set piece opportunity from the wing, I just thought, well, we're not doing anything with that. We're going to lay it off 10 yards and pass it around and try and Arsenal it from 10 years ago, get it into the box that way. It'd be interesting to see. I don't know much about Nicolas Jackson. If he does sign, I don't know if he's going to go in and be that starter. It does suggest that players like Rashford Fofana is probably going to go out on loan next season to get him some first team football. Nicolas Jackson will probably be sitting on the bench here. Let's have a look here. Comment here from Varner. Mentioned, do we think that Mount will be leaving us this summer? I don't think my opinion has swayed. I generally do think he is probably going to go. Charlie, do you think he's off?
Yeah, I think so.
Tem, do you think he's off?
Yeah.
Covers that one. Covers that. Let's have a look here. So it looks like we're stockpiling again. We have Datra Fofana. Is Jackson really going to be the main guy for us? It's an interesting topic to say, Varner. I have to agree. I don't think he is going to be our main guy. I really don't. Maybe in a few years. I would like to see Armando Broja potentially take that role again. But, it depends what happens with players coming through the academy. But I think it's likely that we're probably going to have a rotation of Broja, Jackson and Nkuku in that position. I really, Lukaku, I can't see him being at Chelsea, even though we're not going to have him they're not going to send him out on another year loan. They basically flat outright said no. So, hopefully some sort of deal could be done for Lukaku. But,
are you guys happy with that though?
What, Lukaku going out on loan again?
No, I mean like the striking positions. If it was Fofana, Jackson.
No, it's just not good enough. It's not good enough. And if we buy another one, which is basically what I think, because I don't think this Jackson was signed to be he's not the main man, is he? He's somebody off the bench. He's Kalou, isn't he? He's Salomon Kalou, basically. That's basically what
it is. Yeah.
Or Batshuayi. That's him, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think Broja's going to be fit anyway, is he, for the beginning of the season? I don't know. Even if he is, I think he's going to be
fully fit and ready to play I think he's going to be getting match fitness from August.
Okay, but the point is, he's a risk in himself because he's not quite proven at that level yet. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to go out and buy someone because we're going to be selling Havertz. We can't rely on Havertz anyway, but we're going to be selling Havertz. I mean, Nkunku, is he? I thought he was the top scorer in the Bundesliga.
He was, and he's played as a 9, but he's largely known as playing as a number 10. It's just another number 10 position, but he can play as a 9. But it's whether he wants to play as a 9. But he was the Bundesliga top scorer last season. But we've previously signed the Bundesliga top scorer in Timo Werner, and as much as I love Turbo Timo, it didn't particularly work out for it. Varner sharing another comment with us here. So, what about if we were to sign for somebody like Mitrovic? Of course you would, Charlie, because
he's proper Chelsea. Because that is what we want. We need a fighter. We need someone with a bit of.
Do you know what? If we're not going to go,
he's a Costa. He's a Drogba. He's a menace. That's what we want. That's what we miss.
Do you know what? If you'd have asked me 4 months ago, Temba, I would have said absolutely not. But given the options that we have at the moment and the fact that we're not looking likely, there's no real number 9 that we can really go out and get. Like, can you think of a number 9 realistically that we can try and convince to come and join us?
No, and I've not seen enough of Mitrovic's link-up play to sum him up as a player. I'll admit, I've not really watched him. I remember tracking him when he was a youngster, but I haven't seen him in the last recent years. I'm not quite sure if he's a selfish player or whatnot, because the one thing I will say, with the way our wingers play, they need a focal point. And I think that's something that we didn't actually have last season. Very, very well. I think we need a striker who can shoot, obviously, and do things himself. But in terms of, they're players that really like to occupy inside spaces and, cut in and sort of run beyond the last man. And you need a good striker who can hold his own and then be able to give off the ball to other players like Sterling, Madueke, and Mudryk.
All these players. We've got a multitude of players coming in this position, so maybe it's simply just down to the fact that we've got so many players in that area that it might not be something that we do entertain as a club. But let's. I want to look at some other things here now quickly as we round off. So, interesting things here that we need to say. So I'm quite delighted. I mean, Temba, you told me this, but Lewis Hall has signed a 2-year contract extension with the club. Fantastic news all round. Surely, I'd like to see him get more opportunities next season. Could you see him being there's going to be that number 2 to take the place when Ben Chilwell inevitably gets injured for 4 weeks? Or is it Cucurella?
I think that depends on what happens with Cucurella, because there were rumours of him leaving potentially as well.
Saudi, come on, Piff. Newcastle.
Yeah.
Newcastle. Do you know? I'd drive him. I would drive him to Newcastle. I would go out my way. I'd drive to London. I'd pick him and his wife up and drive him to Newcastle and get him accustomed to Geordie life. I don't know. Yeah, maybe, you never know. But Newcastle, they got, is it Matt Targett at left back there, and then they also got Dan Burn. Somebody else?
Not
sure.
Maybe they want somebody with flowing hair. They haven't had Cola. Is it Colaccini? It used to have that big curly hair. Maybe they want somebody else. But no, good news for Lewis Hall signing that 2-year contract extension. But yeah, chaps, I think that's probably everything. Any other business?
No, I don't think so.
All good for now. I'm sure there'll be a lot more in the next week to discuss.
Yeah,
maybe 24 hours. Yeah,
exactly. Maybe 24 hours. Room is a bit.
Koulibaly, Aubameyang. We didn't mention. Oh, Aubameyang. Sorry.
Aubameyang, he'll leave when he wants to. He's off eventually. He's not going to Barcelona. I think he's probably going to go to Saudi. But I haven't heard anything concrete just yet. The rumours there, but I'm sure at this point next week we'll have more news. Everything all changes within a week. Havertz was off to Real Madrid at this point last week, and now he's going to North London. So fuck Kai Havertz. Anyway, this has been a We Talk Chelsea podcast. We appreciate you for joining us. If you can hit that like button, hit that subscribe, we greatly appreciate that. And we thank you all for joining us on TKS TV. We will see you all next week. Take care.
All right. Peace.
Take care.